Wish everyone a happy listening. Zhongru also did not make things difficult for me. I am very grateful to them. But later, Zhongru had a dispute with the co-star behind the scenes of the film crew. During the argument, the person fell down the stairs and became a vegetable. There was no surveillance camera at that time, but someone had to be held responsible. And I happened to be there at that time witnessing everything. My foster mother came to me with tears in her eyes, begging me to take the blame for Tongru. Tongru knelt before me, kowtowed, slapped herself in the face, and apologized to me. The whole family cried painfully. So I nodded. I took the blame for her and went to jail, suffering all kinds of hardships. At first, the Tong family still came to visit me, either individually or with tears in their eyes, apologizing. But gradually no one came anymore. One time the prison organized an activity. The warden asked us about our plans after we got out of prison. I thought for a long time, then seriously wrote, "After I get out of prison, I want to see my parents once." The cellmate next to me saw me and laughed at how simple it was. My parents will definitely come to pick me up, so why can't I see them? I smiled and didn't object. But when I actually got out of prison, no one came. Only my father's assistant took me to the airport, then gave me a large sum of money. He didn't say anything, but I understood everything. My parents don't need me anymore. The Tong family abandoned me. I don't take the money, not because I'm noble. I just don't want to owe the Tong family anymore. The Tong family raised me for more than 20 years, and I spent 5 years in prison because of their biological daughter. Both sides have settled the matter. I rented a house and ran around until I found a job that wouldn't look down on me for having a criminal record. But after only half a month, I was fired. I asked all kinds of questions and the manager stammered. She poked the wrong person. I stopped for a moment, then didn't listen. The wrong person was kicked out of the house. Who else could it be? That day, I was walking down the street with my bag in my arms. It was drizzling. The cold raindrops were falling on my face and body with the wind. Passing by the central square, on the big screen was live streaming a video of Songru. I stopped and looked up. On the award stage, she was breathtakingly beautiful, freely displaying her beauty. He turned around and saw Song's parents looking at her with tears in their eyes. It was as if they were looking at a rare treasure, their eyes filled with love. I don't know why, but suddenly I remembered the first time I went to prison to visit my foster mother. She looked at me, thin and pale, and with tears in her eyes she promised me, "Oh, after you get out of prison, I will take care of you for the rest of your life. I love you." But 2 years ago, the last time I saw her, there was only a faint look of pity on her face. She said, "Don't be so secretive, it seems like she's about to get engaged to Xiao Wenxin. She really likes him. After you get out of prison, can you leave here? Avoid letting the Xiao family find out about what happened first." Xiao Wenxin, the young master of the Xiao family. There's TV in prison. Sometimes I hear about Songru and Xiao Wenxin's deep love story. People say that Xiao Wenxin is a famous playboy in the industry, but he restrained himself for Songru. He entered the entertainment industry that he despised the most, paved the way for her, provided her with connections and resources, and personally presented her with awards. Sometimes I also envy Songru. Jealous because she has loving parents, a devoted boyfriend, only in her early 20s but has achieved both career and love. Unlike me. No parents, no career, no boyfriend. No one loved me either. As for marrying Ha Van Tan, this was an accident. After being fired, I returned to my hometown to work as a waiter in a restaurant. Quite busy. I don't know where he got his information. When he found me, I was serving beer to the customers. The man was drunk and his hands and feet were dirty. I raised my eyebrows and slapped him. The man got angry and kicked me to the ground. The wine bottle and food were poured all over me. Hot, the man was still not satisfied. Only the gambler still wanted to attack. But the next second there was no more sound. I opened my eyes and looked into the man's starry eyes. Ha Van Tan smiled lazily without much sincerity. "Song Tangyin, are you really here?" I stood up, dusting off the food on my body. I nodded, intending to go around him and leave. But I had only taken 2 steps. I heard his voice behind me. "Looking at you so miserable, do you want to marry me?" I turned my head to look at him in surprise. "Have you finally gone crazy?" Seriously, Ha Van Tan sized me up. His dark eyes showed no emotion, but when he opened his mouth, he was very serious. "To tell you the truth, I was dumped by your sister. I'm not in a good mood, and you were forced into this state by her family. We can also be considered as the souls of the victims. The streetlights flickered twice, then went out. I couldn't see his face clearly, only heard him snort, the cigarette in his mouth giving off a red glow. Anyway, I have nothing left now. Marrying him, I won't lose anything. What's there to be afraid of? I thought for a moment but didn't say anything. He waited for me in silence. Until the cold wind blew. I unconsciously used my body. Xiao Wenxin took off his high-end tailored jacket and put it on my shoulders. In an instant, my breath was filled with the faint scent of his cigarettes. I said okay. When the news of the wedding spread, everyone was surprised. They all said that Xiao Wenxin married me because he was upset with Song Ru. During the wedding, when Xiao Wenxin said he agreed, I noticed Song Ru crying her eyes out in the audience. I lost my composure and left the scene. I glanced at the man, but he was smiling, not even looking at her. As if we had never loved, as if we really didn't care. After we got married, Ha Van Tan treated me very well. He arranged a secretary job for me, and we were always tied together. I asked him why, he just laughed. Not feeling secure leaving a grown woman at home. Afraid that some thief will steal her away. You will lose your purity. Isn't that a big loss? I laugh at you for being frivolous. I'm too lazy to argue with you. During the years in prison, I suffered too much, my body could not bear any pressure. A common cold or cough for normal people would become a serious illness for me. Xiao Wenxin invited famous doctors from all over to treat me, and I got a little better. By the hospital bed, he held my hand, solemn and respectful, sending me to the underworld. He had bought me, my life was his, I could not die before him. Childish words, but seeing his eyes that contained a bit of bitterness, I finally nodded. I did not understand why he was sad, but I had long learned not to ask, not to bother. Okay, white hair is long insolent. But in the end, the one who broke his promise was not me, but Xiao Wenxin. Madam Xia, Mr. Xia was in a serious car accident at 3 a.m. yesterday morning, and was rushed to the emergency room, but did not survive. Please bear with your grief. The morgue was full. Ha's parents were crying so hard that they couldn't make a sound. I looked at Ha Van Tan's pale face, but in my heart I just thought to myself, God is biased towards him, giving him this appearance and ability that others can't reach. Why did God only give him 34 years? What a pity. What a pity. I was the one who single-handedly arranged Xiao Wenxin's wedding ceremony. 5 years after our marriage, many people from beginning to end did not take our marriage seriously. Song Ru grew more and more hateful because of love, always waiting to see my joke. But no one expected that Ha Van Tan would leave all his assets and shares to me. His parents had no objections. It was just that when he left, his back was bent, and he no longer had the same spirit as before. A week later, Ha Van Tan's lawyer Tran gave me the inheritance transfer papers. Before leaving, he gave me a tape recorder. This is Mr. Ha's relic, it has been repaired, I think Madam needs it. Song Tangyin. In the recording, the man's voice was cold. The car and electronic noises were even more hoarse. He smiled at me not because he was angry with Tong Nu but because he liked me. I was a little nervous but calm inside. It was expected. Xiao Wenxin smiled lightly. Perhaps you have forgotten we met a long time ago. At that time you were the school's aloof flower, and also extremely intelligent, the treasure of the teachers. My instructor often mentioned you. Every time he finished talking to your teacher, he would angrily tell me, Xiao Wenxin, I really hate you now, stay away from me. He imitated the instructor's tone and sounded very cute. I unconsciously laughed, but then I slowly retracted my smile. Ha Van Tan continued to speak. At that time he really hated me but couldn't help but keep an eye on me. It seems like he was a bit despicable, But then you went to jail for the so-called intentional injury. I didn't believe it. I had to investigate clearly, but unfortunately, the Song family had erased all clues, so I set my eyes on Song Ru. So the love affair between Xiao Wenxin and Song Ru that everyone was talking about was just an excuse for me to find out the truth about me going to jail. But Xiao Wenxin didn't expect that Song Ru's mouth was so tight. But in the end he still found a clue. I suddenly remembered that before we got married, Xiao Wenxin excitedly asked me one day, do you want revenge? I shook my head. We've settled the score. Many years later, I finally understood that he must have found out the truth that day. He found out the truth for me and hid the truth for me. Turned out that it was all for me. The emotions in my eyes kept changing. My whole body couldn't help but tremble. Tears fell drop by drop. But then again, your acting must have been really, really good to have fooled everyone, including me. Do you know, when you came to propose to me, how adorable was that expression and gaze? Forget it, I've said too much. Actually, I've always wanted to ask you. Xiao Wenxin coughed. He was originally as cold as this when he opened his mouth. His voice rarely carried a hint of shyness like a young man's. Song Tangyin, can you also like me a little? This life I might not be able to hear it, so in the next life when I come to find you, please tell me. Along with the ear-piercing sound of car brakes, the passionate screams of the crowd, I heard his last words very clearly. He said, Song Tangyin, I really, really, really like you. The final tone carried a hint of laughter. The emotions that had been suppressed at this moment suddenly collapsed. In the empty living room, on the table were still the lilies that Xiao Wenxin had brought home a few days ago. I have always liked lilies. He immediately held them up like treasures and placed them in front of me. Oh, how fragrant are they! He had deliberately chosen each of them. Oh, later on I will change all the flowers in the house for you. At that time the faint smile in your eyes, like you were so gentle, how could I say a word of disagreement? Like a person who promised then lied. You left first, also carrying the last bit of life of the lily. The warm sunlight shone through the floor-to-ceiling window onto my shoulder. I raised my hand to touch it but only felt cold. Until today I finally saw through the intense and mysterious love that Ha Van Tan hid under the layer of ice. But it seemed too late. A week later, Lawyer Tran met Mrs. Ha again. He came to get the inheritance transfer papers. He had followed Xiao Wenxin for many years and had met Miss Xia many times. In his impression, Madame Xia had always been dignified and gently smiled, like a jade Buddha statue on a pedestal, coldly watching the hustle and bustle. Not happy, not angry, not moved. Even when she heard the news of Xiao Wenxin's death, she was only stunned for a moment, and her eyes didn't even turn red. Xiao Wenxin treated her so well, but she only received one tear in return. Lawyer Chun felt unworthy in his heart on behalf of Xiao Wenxin. But this time, as soon as he entered the living room, Lawyer Tran saw Mrs. Ha holding several bouquets of wilted lilies, her face whiter than falling snow. When she saw him, she didn't even smile politely, only coldly saying, Lawyer Tran, please donate your assets to the orphanage. I don't need it, I have no intention of negotiating. As he was leaving, Lawyer Tran couldn't help but turn around and ask, Madam, have you ever liked CEO Ha? But Mrs. Ha just smiled and didn't answer. Many years later, Mrs. Ha became a philanthropist that the media rushed to report on, sponsoring countless orphans. The next time I saw her, it was in front of her hospital bed. She was clearly only 45 years old, but her hair was already white. At that time she looked out the window, as if she saw someone with a hint of a young girl's innocence on her face. She said like always, like, oh, I beg you, please save my sister. My sister is so young, how can she go to jail? Sister, I really know my mistake, I didn't mean it, I don't want to go to jail. I'm a big star, if I go to jail my whole life will be ruined. When I woke up from a dark patch, I heard a soft cry from beside me. My head was pounding, I slowly opened my eyes and saw everything before me clearly. Song Ru was kneeling on the ground, crying and lying on the ground. Ba Tong painfully hugged her to comfort her. Mother Tong was holding my hand tightly, her eyes and face were filled with tears, her mouth was filled with some shyness, but also very serious. Ah, can you go and take your sister's place in jail? I silently looked at her as an encouragement. Mother Tong gritted her teeth and said, ah, there was no surveillance camera at the scene. There was only you and Anu there. The police only captured an unrecognizable back. As long as you admit that you accidentally pushed me, I will understand that the police will not be able to find anything. Don't worry, after you go to jail, I will definitely take care of everything for you so you won't have to suffer. When you get out of jail, the Tong family will take care of you for the rest of your life. Yes, she said the same thing in her previous life. But the expiration date was only 1 year. The promise expired, I was kicked out of the single cell and the beautiful microorganism, receiving countless humiliations and revenge. Being beaten, cursed, even poisoned, the suffering was indescribable. But no one saw me. Until I was poisoned by nitric acid in food, was released on bail for medical treatment, my mother came to my bedside. That day, she looked down at me from above, her expression slightly impatient. After all, this was a prison, not a resort. Suffering a little was inevitable. Don't be so negative, don't be so weak. I had to go on a business trip abroad recently, and my mother was worried so she probably wouldn't have time to visit me again. After that, I never saw her again. Looking at the tears on my mother's face right now, I believe that what she said right now was sincere. But sincerity is fickle. The regret and self-reproach I felt eventually turned into deeper fear over time. I gently pushed my mother's hand away, saying, "No, she's having a fever," perhaps not expecting that I, who had been so hesitant, would reject her. But when I opened my mouth again, my voice was serious and firm. "Mom, thank you for raising me for 20 years, but I don't want to trade my life for it. You can scold me for being selfish and ungrateful, but I don't want to take the blame for her. I was not reborn to repeat the same mistakes. In my previous life, Havantan saved me. In this life, I must save myself, then come to Havantan with integrity and honesty." My refusal made Mr. Tong angry. He yelled at me for being ungrateful, enjoying the good things. The Tong family had owned them for so many years, but I refused to pay the price at all. Mother Tong and Tong Nu cried even more in pain. But seeing that I was not moved, they were afraid that I would run away. So they locked me in a room. Only my brother was the only one who did not say a word from beginning to end. Just like my previous life, my mother confiscated my phone, but she didn't know that I had a spare one. I took out my phone, and the news that Xia Xiaoxiao had suddenly been seriously injured and became a vegetable yesterday had already been posted on the hot news board. There were very few clues, only the paparazzi had taken a photo of her blurry back. With his words, Tong Ru and her sister had been alone with Xia Xiaoxiao for a while. The police should be here soon. I turned on my backup phone and unconsciously dialed a series of numbers. Looking at the familiar numbers, I paused for a moment, but in the end, I still didn't press the call button. I don't know why, but I always feel a little scared. I'm afraid that the person on the other end of the line isn't someone I know, and I'm even more afraid that when I wake up, I'll never see him again. In my previous life, after Xiao Wenxin passed away, I often recharged his phone. When I'm awake late at night, I text him, either about something normal or complaining. I'll always get a reply, this is his auto-reply message. He set it up before he died. Tell me, how could this person be so hateful? So hateful that he gripped my heart, making me unable to forget him for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I stood up, lifted the curtains, the warm sunlight passed through the window, shining on me, carrying a hint of coldness. I saw the police outside the door, along with Ba Tong's meaningful gaze. I shook and finally sent a message. "Havantan, are you coming to save me?" That confirmed my guilt. But I banged on the door again. Faced with the police's questioning, I ignored Mother Song's pleading eyes and answered each question one by one. In my previous life, I was able to get a favorable conviction because I took the initiative to admit my guilt and even erase my alibi. But in this life, I won't be so stupid again. The past 20 years of affection had long since disappeared in my previous life. Not hating was my limit. Compared to my calmness, Tong Ru seemed even more panicked and uneasy. Who is right, who is wrong? One look and you know. When Tong was taken away, Tong's mother cried miserably. Tong's father had a gloomy face, occasionally glancing at me as if he wanted to kill the enemy who killed his daughter. I wish I could tear me into a million pieces. The two of them followed as they left. I silently watched, not saying a word. At this moment, Tong Thuanot came to me and said in a low voice, "The Tong family can't take you in anymore. You should leave here." I stopped to look at him, my eyes lingering on his red eyes for a second. "You don't blame me?" Song Chung-ri was stunned. He didn't answer yes or no, just looked at the police car in the distance. His voice was as light as the wind. "Oh, you are also my sister." He had said the same thing in his previous life. He advised me not to plead guilty. I asked him why. He looked at me with a gaze like the wind and rain, both gentle and pitiful. "You are my sister too. It's just that I failed your advice. But this time I decided to listen to you. I'm afraid that Tong's parents hate me to the core now, and if I stay, it will only make things more complicated." I said, "Seriously, brother, you must take care of your health." Song Chung-ri curled his lips, his voice hoarse, "Live your life well." After packing my luggage, I walked out of the Song family home and headed forward. The wind blew, carrying a pile of fallen leaves. At this moment, the sunlight shone on me, extremely warm. But at this moment, a figure suddenly rushed in front of me, his voice extremely panicked. Song Tangyin, I'm here, are you okay? I was stunned and looked up. The man was wearing a black shirt, his body was slender and straight, his eyes were deep. His whole body was immersed in the morning sunlight, as if standing in the light. His handsome and somewhat lazy face was indifferent. But at this moment his complexion was slightly pale, his face was tense as he looked at me. Seeing that I was fine, his face softened, his eyes stopped on my suitcase for 2 seconds. He opened his mouth again, a little hesitant. Song Tangyin, you ran away from home. It's Xiao Wen Xine. To be more precise, it's Xiao Wen Xine who is much younger. Memories of the past quickly flooded my mind. There was him looking at me gently, there was him lazily holding me, there was him holding my hand step by step towards marriage, finally stopping on the first afternoon of class. He looked lazy to remind me, but when he was actually holding my hand tightly, he asked me, Song Tangyin, do you want to marry me? At this moment my heart was pounding, my eyes couldn't bear to leave the man. Until he panicked and widened his eyes, surprised, and said, Song Tangyin, why are you crying? Who bullied you? Am I crying? Why am I crying? Seeing you again. I should be happy. But the emotions accumulated in my heart from my previous life all turned into tears that flowed out from my heart. Tears kept falling, I cried. Xiao Wenxin just quietly stayed by my side. After a long while he held me in his arms, his voice low, carrying a hint of helpless affection, as if he was coaxing a child he loved. Ayin, don't cry anymore. Whoever bullies you, I will help you get revenge, okay? No, I grabbed his sleeve tightly, shaking my head, not to get revenge. In this life I only want to be with you, well, nothing else. I followed Ha Van Tan to his apartment, cold and empty. That was his style. In my previous life, after Ha Van Tan passed away, I had stayed here for a long time, maybe to commemorate him or maybe to reminisce. I can't say it clearly, I've long been familiar with the layout here, but I didn't notice that when I skillfully walked to the deepest place, turned the corner, pushed the door, and entered the bathroom. Xiao Wenxin's eyes darkened for a moment. Looking at myself in the mirror, my eyes were red and swollen, I couldn't bear it. I let out a soft sigh, feeling a little embarrassed. I had clearly made up my mind to face Xiao Wenxin properly. But every time we meet I still struggle like this. But it's okay, Ha Van Tan loves me so much, he won't look down on me, absolutely won't. This is the thing I'm most certain and confident about in this life. Coming out of the bathroom, Ha Van Tan was leaning against the door for me. He asked me why I was crying. I told him everything that had just happened frankly. Between him and me there was nothing to hide. After hearing that, Xiao Wenxin was stunned. So the Song family wanted her to plead guilty. I nodded, but she refused. This matter will not end so easily. Although Xia Xiaoxiao is seriously injured and has not yet regained consciousness, there is no solid evidence. We can only wait until she wakes up before we can confess. Even though the police now think that Song Ru is a strong suspect, your suspicions are not non-existent. The more he spoke, the darker his expression became. I suddenly interrupted him. Xiao Wen, I'm a little hungry. His eyes paused, stopping on me, seeing my eyes shining without any tension. He sighed helplessly. He went to work. I nodded slightly. In my previous life I had a very serious stomach ache. Xiao Wenxin had specialized in cooking and personally went into the kitchen every day. Your cooking skills are very good. I used to think you knew how to cook. But now I see you holding a bowl of lumpy noodles. I suddenly realized Ha Van Tan is a young master. He has always been served by others, how could he know how to cook from the beginning? He learned it for me. It has always been for me. I picked up my chopsticks and took a bite, it was quite salty. But Xiao Wenxin looked at me expectantly, was it delicious? There were little stars in his eyes. So beautiful. Just like the man in my memory, smiling and asking me if I liked him. I lowered my head, suppressing my bitter emotions, and nodded vigorously. It was delicious. I liked it very much. In the end, the bowl of noodles was thrown into the bin. Because I was crying, Xiao Wenxin thought it was because it was hard to eat. So he picked up his chopsticks and tried to throw a piece. Then the next wire made friends with the crate. He frowned, looking displeased. He wanted to cry too. Why was it so hard to eat? So cute. Made me laugh out loud, dispelling the gloom between the 2 rows of cages. I encouraged. It's okay, your future cooking will definitely be delicious. Why? I smiled and said, because you are my only future customer. The man's eyes flashed. His eyes became thoughtful. containing an unfathomable depth. He spoke in a low voice, his voice trailing off. What am I to you in the future? I was stunned. I looked up at him as if facing his confident and certain jet-black eyes. I guessed it. Right. I've always been smart like that. Maybe I paused for a moment, then slowly said, lovers, lovers, lovers. I thought Havantan would be stunned, or would frown and ask again, but he kept his face. The corners of his eyes curved slightly, the corners of his lips lifted, removing the casual indifference. He appeared extremely sincere. He said, that's good. That's good. Looking at it, the corners of his eyes trembled with a smile. I suddenly wanted to taste it to see what it tasted like. Thinking is doing. I stood on tiptoe and kissed it. In his surprised eyes I smiled brightly. Havantan, I like you so much. I forgot to tell you in my previous life. This life, let me tell you. I like you, always like you. Before going to sleep, Havantan covered me with a blanket. If you're scared, call me, I'll come right away. Before leaving, he placed the amulet around his neck in my palm. I knew this. Havantan had been weak since he was young. Madame Ha prayed for a talisman of safety for you, protecting you as you grow up. Now, you also use it to protect my safety. I held the jade pendant tightly, my heart pounding, my cheeks burning. It wasn't until Xiao Wenxin slowly walked out and closed the door that I was shocked to feel my face pale. I touched the corner of my mouth and realized I had been smiling the whole time. His heart was also filled with joy. Xiao Wenxin was always like this. He looked like a playboy who didn't take anything to heart, but in reality, he was the most attentive and gentle man. But this sleep, I did not fall asleep until midnight. A little excited, a little scared. Glancing at the phone placed by the pillow, wondering if Havantan had fallen asleep yet. I'm a little afraid of disturbing you by calling. How about texting? Are you asleep yet? I sent it, but I felt a little awkward and was about to take it back. Suddenly, there were footsteps coming from the door. Then came the sound of the door being pushed open. When I opened my eyes, Xiao Wenxin was already standing in front of my bed. The moonlight shone through the window, shining on Xiao Wenxin's shoulder. His sharp edges also became soft and gentle. He bent down and gently asked, what's wrong? The message was sent less than a minute ago, but he was already here. He really kept his promise. He said he would come, and no matter how late it was, he would come. Maybe like me, he didn't sleep tonight. Just because I'm afraid I really need you. Thinking about this, my heart aches. Both painful and angry. I stayed at Havantan's house like that for half a month. The most interesting thing was waiting for Havantan to come home. He went into the kitchen and fussed with his food. I leaned against the door, quietly watching him, occasionally giving him a hand. Under the warm yellow light, his hair was slicked back, revealing a handsome but somewhat immature face, with a thin layer of bone, exuding a faint gentleness. At this time, he had not yet graduated from university. Compared to the decisive Xiao Ha of his previous life, he was now a bit immature and childish. This was a period of time that I had never participated in and had never known about. Occasionally he would look up, the corners of his lips slightly raised. His clear eyes were filled with love. I couldn't hide it. He liked me very much. Only then did I realize that, during the time I didn't know Xiao Wenxin really liked me. My heart suddenly tightened, the emotions in my heart flowed through my body with my blood, and finally turned into a sigh. I saw Xiao Wenxin's cooking skills getting better and better. The Song family finally couldn't hold it in any longer. I thought that the Song family wouldn't let Songru admit his guilt and go to jail like that. But I didn't expect that the Song family would buy a dozen of Xiao Xiaoxiao's managers and point out that I was the real culprit. How shameless, how despicable. In front of the camera, Mother Tong revealed my and Tong Nu's identities. She cried until her tears flowed. I really didn't expect Ain to intentionally harm others. She has always been a good child, but now to escape punishment, she is blaming her younger sister. Ai Nu, although she is my biological daughter in reality, has not had many happy days. Now she was falsely accused and imprisoned. Ain really made me feel heartbroken. Tong Ruyu crouched in her arms, clumsily wiping away her tears, but he himself let the tears flow down his cheeks. Mom, don't be sad anymore. It must have been a momentary mistake on the part of my sister. If I could absolve my sister, I would do it on her behalf as long as she could be filial to you. The mother and daughter cried bitterly in front of the camera, looking very pitiful. The person who made the mistake must take responsibility. It wasn't your fault. You don't need to bear it. Finally, Father Tong faced the camera and spoke seriously. Song Tang-in, the Song family has raised you for so many years, hoping that you can stand up and atone for your mistakes. The video has just been released. There has been a wave of criticism against me online. What a white-eyed wolf, an adopted daughter who had enjoyed so much happiness for so many years, yet let the biological daughter of the Song family take the blame for her. Is that human? Song Tang-in, what a vicious woman, not daring to admit what she did, truly disgusting. That's right, the Song family treated her very well, yet she repaid them like this, truly ungrateful. The scolding just kept on coming. My personal account was also dug up, and every day it exploded with messages. Even my old classmates called to ask about my situation. I occasionally replied to those who cared about me. Those who told me to confess directly blocked. Outside the noise was non-stop, but I did nothing. No matter how much the Song family created trouble, no matter how much chaos they caused, as long as the police refused to arrest me, I am still innocent. Why do I have to confuse myself and fall into the trap of proving myself? Xiao Wenxin received the news today and rushed home. As soon as he opened his mouth, he said, "I can help you." I laughed. "No need, it's you." But I couldn't say half a sentence. For some reason, I suddenly remembered something that happened in my previous life. A fierce argument, but it was said to be fierce. Actually, it was because Ha Van Tan treated me too well, making many people jealous, and some people spread rumors behind my back that I had been in prison. The internet was also full of curses. But all in all, it was because I was not worthy of Xiao Wenxin. Xiao Wenxin wanted to help me dispel the rumors. Wanted to attend the press conference with me, sue those who spread rumors. But I didn't think it was necessary. I had been to prison, although I felt ashamed. I didn't want Ha Van Tan to be disgraced because of it. But this angered Ha Van Tan. He coldly questioned me, asking if I held him in my heart, if I considered him my husband. But I just felt that dealing with him coldly was the best, feeling that he was unreasonable and incomprehensible. That day, the living room lights were off, leaving only a bit of sunset light. After a long silence, he burst out laughing and said softly, "You are innocent in this world, but I cannot bear it when others point it out to you. Song Tang-in, do you understand?" I kept quiet and did not answer him. As I was about to leave, I looked back and only saw his lonely back. At that moment, I felt a little regretful. I thought I'd agree with him. It was just a small matter. But I didn't expect it to be the last time. After he passed away, I asked myself over and over again, why didn't I stay by his side? Why didn't I tell him my feelings? Those lilies, that caring, that look in his eyes, did I really not realize that he loved me? I clearly knew. But I am a bastard who relies on love. I firmly believe that Ha Van Tan will be with me for the rest of my life, stubbornly immersed in his love. But I never calm his restless heart. It was not until he died that I understood love. But for late love, the cruelest thing is that before you can confess, before you can be close, it's completely gone. There's no more chance. Coming back to this life is God giving me a chance to make up for it. Things like shyness, embarrassment, progressing step by step in love, I don't care, I also can't learn. I just want to be with you. Just really want more. So I hugged Ha Van Tan tightly, then kissed his lips. When our lips touched, I breathed softly and said, "Can you help me? First, I will pay you a reward." Xiao Wenxin was stunned for a moment. Then he pushed me down onto the sofa forcefully, deepening this kiss. 2 hours later, I was so tired that I couldn't stand up. But I still held Ha Van Tan tightly, refusing to let go. I looked at him, clearly too sleepy to open my eyes, but still didn't want to close them. I was still a little afraid that this was just a dream. He bent down and kissed me gently on the cheek between my eyes. "I'm here asleep. I'll be here forever." I said yes. Unable to resist any longer, I sank into darkness. In the darkness, I suddenly woke up. I was wearing light blue pajamas, lying in a black and white bedroom. On the bedside table was a glass of cold water. Next to the glass of water was a white pill. I looked around, it was cold and deserted, as if no one I knew was there. My heart ached. Memories flashed through my mind scene by scene. Finally stopped at the hoarse voice carrying electricity. A sound "I really, really like you" turned out to be a dream. I was shocked. It was just a beautiful dream. I clutched my chest, my limbs were cold as if I was caught in a net. Little by little, I was robbed of my right to breathe, tears falling down. What's wrong? A person suddenly pushed the door open, walked in front of me, and looked at me with a panicked expression. Tears blurred my eyes. I held my hand to wipe them away, and finally saw the man's face clearly. It's okay. I just went out to take care of the Song family's business. I found the manager who was bribed by the Song family, and also found the cleaning worker who happened to pass by that day. He saw Song as if he was full of shame. Song as if he had been convicted. The Song family was also being sued by him for defamation. No one will slander you anymore. The man gently patted my back and told me everything that happened while I was sleeping. I raised my head to look at him, leaning gently against his chest, listening to the clear, strong heartbeat in my chest, and finally burst out laughing. It's okay, I miss you. I told him gently. Havantan, have I told you yet? I really, really, really like you. The man laughed and hugged me tightly. He said he also likes you. Lovers, after many years, finally tell each other their love. Mountains and rivers, time cannot stop them. Lovers meet again. By the way, I was a seminarian. After my resurrection, I went to the Song family immediately. As I discovered, the Song family was still in harmony. Tong Duong Am is still the coldest and smartest goddess in the whole school. She is not the gentle woman whose heart is actually broken like in her previous life. Am does not feel safe. Prison was too miserable, and she was envied by others. Those criminals often deliberately tortured her at night. After she was released from prison, even though she was in a deep sleep, the slightest movement would wake her up. After that, she couldn't sleep anymore. She just sat there all night. But even so, she could still complete her work well during the day without making any mistakes. Mayain is the fragile snow, but the sturdy green pine. It looks like a ray of light could melt her. But in reality, she is unbreakable. I love her and I admire her. During the school's opening ceremony, Song Tang-in, as the student council president, gave a speech. I sat below watching her from afar. The girl was wearing a uniform, her hair tied in a ponytail, revealing a beautiful yet immature face. She freely showed off her beauty and knowledge, causing many people to not only look at her with fascination, but also listen with fascination. At this moment, Ain was the innocent, youthful schoolgirl in his memory. Song Tang-in stood on the conference stage. The wind blew past, blowing her hair. The sunlight seemed to love her, lighting her hair a pale yellow. At that moment, I suddenly felt that if only time could stop at this moment, how nice it would be. Mayain would never have to endure hardships for sure. Forever keep your innocence. Laugh is laugh, suffer is suffer. Will not be rumored, will not be ridiculed or mocked by others. How nice. I knew something would happen to Song Ru. So I deliberately installed a camera in the deserted hallway. I was about to announce it when I received a distress message from Song Tang-in. At that time, I knew that Ain had also returned. I wanted to know her attitude this time. I wanted to know how she would handle the Song family. And this time she refused to admit her guilt. She left the Song family home. I saw her quietly dragging her suitcase on the deserted Sycamore Avenue. When she saw me, she smiled. It made me feel like, yeah, it was a warm sunny day. I took her home. I pretended not to know anything. I tried for a long time, but only managed to make a bowl of noodles without any color. I looked at her dumbfounded. Little by little, I guided her to discover my love for her. Seeing her moved by me, I should have been happy. But when I saw her tears, my heart ached. Oh well, I thought it was enough that I loved her. Whether she loved me or not, it didn't matter. But in the end, she threw herself into my arms and told me, Havantan, I really, really, really like you. At that moment, I felt like flowers were blooming in the sky. I tried to suppress the stinging in my eyes, and replied to my princess word by word. Me too. Song Tang-in, I really, really, really like you. They say lovers will eventually meet again. So I think when we meet again, the sunshine will definitely be warm. Thank you everyone for listening to the story on Jong Tuesday Man Audio Healing Channel. If you find it interesting, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to receive the earliest notifications.